Hi, Christa.
Hi, Frantz.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for coming, and I'm very appreciative, very grateful for your time and your presence.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So this is a platform where we have real conversation, real talk. We are looking for the human side of everything. As someone who studied international business, I am really fascinated by how many cultures and different cultures define success in navigating money. Mm-hmm. So before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing.
Well, I grew up in a little bitty Midwestern town in central Illinois.
Right.
Jacksonville, Illinois. I lived there my whole life until almost 5 years ago. I uprooted my whole life, my family, my children, everything, and we moved to Fort Myers, Florida.
That's great. Welcome to Florida.
Yes.
The Sunshine State.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Well, let's jump into it now. So, I've observed in the modern societies, and now people talk about money left and right. However, I feel as if we should go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Because based on my research throughout my studies in international business, everybody has a story when it comes to money, when it comes to success.
All right.
So for you, Christa, growing up, how was money? How did it look like at home? Was it talked about openly or more of a silent topic?
No. Money was talked about a lot.
Right.
Openly talked about. We were a one-income family.
Right.
My stepfather worked as a heavy equipment operator.
Right.
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And the struggle was real back in the 70s. And I remember quite well the struggle with money and hearing about it a lot.
Right.
So that was a frequent topic of conversation. It was, we struggled a lot with money.
Right. Thank you for sharing this authentic story when it comes to money. So with that being said, so the fact that, it wasn't a topic of taboo in your house, and in the process, there was a struggle.
Right.
Do you feel that this struggle has defined your relationship with money in terms of fear of not having it, of losing it? When you think about money, you see it as if it's gonna bring anxiety in your life. So how is your relationship today?
Well, growing up, I started to figure out ways to make my own money. I worked in the church. I detasseled corn. As a young girl, I babysat. I did whatever I had to do to buy my own clothes. Because in a small town, it was so important that you'd be able to do those things. But because we didn't have the money to put me in the dance classes and to put me in the tumbling classes and to put me in the different things. I mean, that was all a status thing. And I struggled with that. And I always felt like if I could have had the money, we could have went on the vacations. I could have been a part of this group or that group or whatever.
Wow.
And it was always really hard. So as I grew older, I worked really hard. When I was 16, I had my first job, then that turned into 2 jobs, then that turned into 3 jobs
Right.
when I was in high school. And it was always a feeling of anxiety and of worry and of stress and of, in the back of my mind, just a bad feeling. Money was a bad feeling for me when I lived back in Illinois, very much so.
I understood that. You see, this is, growing up, money wasn't just numbers for you, right?
No.
It determined your feeling. It brought anxiety. So, what is your relationship with money today? And if that has evolved, and what triggered that shift?
Well, for starters, I put myself through college and I paid for it myself.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. So having that, and I was a single mother at the time when I did it, and I was a non-traditional student, but when I graduated at 31, I remember that feeling of being very independent.
Right.
And knowing from that point forward that I was going to be okay. And that was a big shift off of my shoulders, knowing that I didn't need to rely on anybody, that I was going to be okay. I didn't have to rely on my parents or a man or anybody else.
Right.
I was going to be okay. For me, it was just such a wonderful feeling of just calm, and everything changed after that point, and it's been like that ever since. I'm very careful with money.
Right.
I have a different relationship with it now.
Right.
I've tried to teach my children that relationship.
That's great. That's great. And one of the things that I realized, and I've learned also being studying international business, anything that you learn late in life, teach it early to your children. That's a great thing. The fact that you are teaching, your children how to handle money, how to develop, a sincere, great relationship with money. So when you hear the word success today, what image comes to your mind? How do you define success, Christa? Tell us.
Success is relationships, love, family, calm, being able to maintain a life that's, you don't have to have everything or keep up with the Joneses. No.
Right.
Just need to have that calm serenity, that feeling of happiness in your heart.
Peace, right?
Yes.
All right. That's great. I mean, that's one thing that you mentioned. You said, relationship, family, when it comes to success.
Yeah.
Relationship is the cornerstone of human beings' well-being or happiness. We are relationship. That's right. That's why I create this space where we can have, emotional connection, where you can tell your story, emotionally charged. Right. So, I've seen that you have a lot to offer, right? So now, but I know, especially in this society, Christa, see a lot of people, are struggling when it comes to money. And, as human being, social validation, social approval, things that are ingrained in our nature, right? We're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? So what would you say to somebody who associate their self-worth with money? When they don't have money, they feel like they are nothing. What would you say to those people?
I would say, after what I've been through since I've come down to Florida, and the fire that I've been through and the fire that you've been through, I would look at them right in the eyes and say, what do you have? What do you have in your life? Look at what's present now.
Right.
Do you have family? Do you have children?
Right.
Do you have income? Do you have faith?
Right.
Do you have hope?
Right.
Do you have health?
That's deep.
Do you have love?
Right.
The number one. Do you have love in your heart?
Right.
If you have those things, you are so rich. So rich.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because sometimes people have it.
And they don't realize it.
They don't realize it.
No, they're just chasing.
And now the benchmark is social media.
Yes.
You know, people who are able to publicize themselves, and people feel lost because they cannot keep up with those people.
I agree.
You know, so thank you so very much for sharing that, because as somebody who has experienced hardship, pain, firsthand.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, today I'm working on a big project. I'm writing my book to tell my story, because it's a painful story. It's really emotionally charged. You know, there's a lot of things that I haven't ever told anyone.
Right.
You know, what I've experienced under the wobble. That was January 12, 2010. That was a major earthquake that hit Haiti. And I spent a whole day under the wobble. I thought I was not going to make it. And I made my prayer and everything. So I think it's time, you know, to tell the world my story, you know. And I realized that we all relationship, you know, this is what really matters.
Yeah.
So, Christa, thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming. And one more time,
thank you for having me.
Really, you're welcome. Anytime. Right? Thank you. So, if you watching this talk, remember that this is a platform where we prioritize human side of everything. Stay tuned and subscribe on this platform. We'll bring you more. Christa, thank you so much for coming. Right? Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're welcome.